Is Australia's research and development stagnating? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Once again, a stein of coffee in hand, and I thought we'd look at this article about R&D here in Australia. Now, we've encountered this before in small business. I think Rachel and I, we used to run a networking event with a few colleagues, and at one stage there were these people coming to try and push and sell us their rendering services. Now, I'm too cheap to pay third parties to do rendering, so we do them all ourselves. But one thing that did tell Rachel that was quite interesting was to apply for these R&D grants, these government grants that you can get. And what we found was that you needed to meet certain criteria to get the grants. You needed to have revenue of $1 million coming through the business a year. We almost got there. We didn't quite make it. And frankly, I think scaling back the business is going to be more profitable, or else it seems to be. But that's another topic. There was, though, our landlord when we were renting a business in South Brisbane, and they got these grants. They got these R&D research grants. And I remember he'd built an extension to his building. He was an industrial designer, so he'd built an extension to his building, and he'd used the R&D grant to pay for equipment, to pay for other stuff, and pretty much to pay for this little metallic extension deck on the back of it, this research and development. Ended up it was being built illegally, and it was nearly at the boundary of the building, but we didn't find that out until after we'd been in there. So those were my two encounters. And that rendering company that got all these R&D grants, guess where all their work was done? Do you think it was done in Australia? Nope, it was sent overseas. So I'm skeptical about the government trying to stimulate innovation or stimulate the economy or research in any such way through those experiences. Because I can't really see how they could really add much innovation at all in those grants. Those two examples I gave. And I'll probably do a video looking through some of the research grants issued at universities another time, but that's a really interesting topic if you want to see just some crazy things that our research funds are going towards. So budget cuts risk driving Australian government investment in productivity boosting research to among the lowest levels in the developed world. Global figures show amid calls from Treasurer Josh Frydenberg for businesses to invest in innovation to help grow the economy. So he's trying to get the businesses to innovate to grow the economy. Now, why would you innovate in Australia? How many businesses head overseas when they reach a certain point? You compare the scale of our market to the States. It's just that simple. That's a real simple thing. If I made an app here, sell it in Australia, there's only so much reach I can get. But if you have a product, you can sell it in America, you've got a much bigger market. I remember we were working with a retail brand, and they had shops all around Australia, but they were doing whatever they could to get to America, because that's where the real money was, not here in the backwaters, the colonies. The coalition has slashed $4 billion from the research and development tax incentives in the past two federal budgets, while clawing back millions of dollars in previously approved claims. What, are they taking claims back? That's scary. Although not surprising considering what I've seen people were claiming. Mr. Frydenberg on Monday angered business leaders when he challenged them to rethink spending on special dividends and share buybacks and instead back themselves and invest in R&D for the good of the economy. Sure. Yep, that's it. Share buybacks are an interesting little thing when you look into it, when you start seeing them, where these businesses are just buying back their shares just to increase the value of their own stock. An analysis of Organizations for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, figures showed sharply falling government incentives are already well below those of Slovenia and Greece. Well, okay, I don't really... Slovenia and Greece, frankly, don't come to mind when I think of research nations. I mean, I like Greek coffee and Greek food, you know? And I had a Greek descendant girlfriend years ago, so fantastic. Has its benefits, but I wouldn't think of it as a innovation hub. Maybe that's just my lack of exposure to the Greek economy. Australia fell from 114 to 107 in 2017-2018, according to an OECD index of R&D investment by government. The index measured through purchasing power parity is expected to drop once again in the 2019 budget, with a cut of $1.3 billion comes into effect. taking Australia further below Mexico and the Netherlands, which score respectively 134 and 114 respectively. But another thing to think about, and I'll just bring this up here, is the complexity of our economy. We can have a look here. This is from the Observatory of Economic Complexity, and you can see Australia's complexity with regards to the entire world, where we're ranked. I'll just bring that as full screen so I can see it over here. We're at 59th out of 126 countries. Now, we've dropped over time. We have definitely dropped. Okay, Australia isn't that advanced as people think. The cuts helped drive Australia's overall R&D investment below that of Europe, China, the United States, South Korea, and Japan, and stifled risk-taking and investment in technology, according to business and economists. Treasury research shows the lack of innovation has left scores of unproductive, laggard firms mopping up workers, hurting productivity and overall wage growth, which has struggled to get above historic low levels across the economy. Well, I've seen that in my own industry. I've invested in... Wait, sorry. I merged the wrong thing. I've invested in our point cloud technology. And you know what? I will put a plug for myself in here, and I'll bring that up. Give me 1 second to load it up. We invested in point cloud laser scanning. We've got our own business where we rent out laser scanning equipment. And we've got it here. We'll merge out. We've got to fix the thing on the website. But this animation is all generated from point cloud scans that we've done. We've scanned high-rise buildings, we've scanned houses, we've scanned lots of things. And I invested quite heavily into this technology. It's one of the first architectural firms, I'd say, in Brisbane that actually invested into their own scanner. We rent it out to other architects and surveyors as well who use it. And it allows us to capture data and work with it on our projects. You know, so I'd say this was innovation. I didn't get any government funding to do this. You know, I had to convince the wife with a business case, and we still have the scanner, and we're renting it out, and we're using it for all of our own jobs. If anything, that's allowed me now, myself and Rachel, as much smaller business, to still work on much larger and more complicated business projects because we have access to this technology. Where did it come from? It's a German scanner, of course. So, KPMG's chief economist, Brendan Ryan, found real spending on R&D declined a further 0.7% over the past year. Well, another thing, that's not really research and development, is it? I guess I wouldn't call it. It's innovation in deploying it, but really I'm just buying off-the-shelf things and putting it together. It's not really R&D, is it? Is it? Yeah. As a driver of innovation, the reduction in R&D investment is not a good sign for an economy already struggling for productivity growth, he said. The Productivity Commission in June identified R&D as one of the key reasons for Australians' mediocre productivity levels, which had dropped from 2.2% average annual growth between 1974 and 2017 to 0.4% in 2017-2018. Wow, that's atrocious. That is atrocious. The figure, which measures output per hour worked, has been driven by a lack of investment in new technology, while ongoing uncertainty over government investment has stifled risk-taking, according to businesses such as Airtasker. Private companies use the tax incentives to minimize their exposure if the innovation fails. Yes, that's what we've seen. The government instituted a $4 million a year cap on refunds for companies with turnover of less than $20 million last year, cutting $2.9 billion from the budget, before cutting by another $1.3 billion in 2019. Yeah. Yep. Mr. Frydenberg made no apologies for the government's R&D changes on Monday. His predecessor, Treasurer Scott Morrison, signalled a tougher line on companies claiming credits when they had not produced significant innovation last year, as the government prepared to move away from former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's $1.1 billion flagship innovation agenda. Well, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Judging by what I've seen, I kind of support that, really. This is not about providing tax breaks for companies to do what they will be doing anyway, but rather putting the right settings in place to enable them to go a step further and back themselves to grow, Mr. Frydenberg said. I'd say the government needs to get out of the whole thing, the whole game. The whole game. Stick to the CSRO. Reduce taxes for small businesses, not through innovation, just generally. How about we reduce some taxes? Wouldn't that be nice? Bloody tax break. He said the government would continue to support R&D outside the tax system, and noted it had committed $2.4 billion to grow Australia's research, science and technology capabilities and invested $5 billion in the Medical Research Future Fund. Here's a suggestion. How about you use the money you're putting here to create a special economic zone with reduced taxes for businesses in these sectors? Why not? Why not? Have Australia's own version of Hong Kong. You know, I hear Launceston is a hub of crypto activity. That's what I've been told by all these people attacking me on my Ponzi warning video. Why don't you put in a lottie, you know? Monash University economist Jacob Madsen said R&D was a critical part of moving the economy away from the mining sector, which has led productivity gains and dominated exports, while leaving Australia with few globally competitive technology firms such as Google or Apple. We've got none. What do we have? Everyone heads overseas. Mining is a huge part of our economy. We're not a very advanced economy. I'll bring this over again. I mean, guys, we're not that advanced. We don't have a whole lot of advanced technology. Iron ore, coal, petroleum, and gold. They're our biggest exports. Okay, what's next? Wheat? Shit, it is. Okay, there you go. There you go. The Australian economy is far too undiversified, diverting a large part of its foreign income from a few minerals and agricultural products, he said. Well, yeah, it is. Yes, it definitely is. And that's kind of a bit late to be jumping to that conclusion. Throwing tax incentives at businesses to do R&D innovation I don't think it's going to have the outcome they want. Let me know what you think, guys. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.